Hi, my name's Matt Fricker, and I'm a friend of George Skokie and Stim Wilcox, who's behind the camera. And I'm shooting one of Stim's bows this morning. It's a yew bow, beautiful, very light. This is the sapwood, and this is the heartwood. It's just a lovely bow. 69 inches, 46 pounds at 28. And I'm not a self-bowyer. I don't make self-bows like George and Stim do, but I really enjoy shooting them. There's nothing like taking a cedar arrow and shooting it out of a bow with no laminates or fiberglass, all made of one piece of wood. It's fast and it has minimal hand shock.
As you can see, it also has pretty good speed, which is something that most people think that these bows do not have. They're actually very good performing bows. Of course, everything is in the design, and not to brag on Stim, but he happens to have the best design I know of. It makes a big difference. He has his formula that he makes these bows by, which is well illustrated and talked about in his book, The Art of Making Self Bows, which I recommend to anybody that has an interest in starting up shooting a self bow or getting into it for curiosity's sake. It's a wonderful sport. I mean, archery is, of course, but when you're shooting a self bow, there's quite a bit of challenge to it. And,
George makes nice arrows too.
of course, shooting self arrows with a self bow is the ultimate pleasure. It brings you back to your roots. It's a bit of a primitive type of archery, I guess you could call it, but it gives you a lot of pleasure. And nothing gives you more pleasure than shooting a bow that performs. And so that's it in a nutshell. Laminated bows, of course, are very well performing, but this is if not equal to these bows, or if they're not equal to a laminated bow in performance, they're not far behind. And whoever picked one up, not having experienced before, would be surprised at how they perform.
George, let me hold one of your bows. Why don't you take
obviously,
a few shots?
this is another U-bow. This is made by Stim for me. Wonderful bow along the same lines as Matt's. Since we're friends, he made a matching pair for us, and they both shoot very well. This one is an Osage bow. Another one is Stim's. As you can see, it's taken on a really nice patina. There's some bow bandages on, as you can see, which are not necessarily bandages because of any harm done to the bow. Most times they're just put on as a preventative measure. Of course, wood is not perfect. You really have to let it tell you what you need to do to it to make a bow like this. But again, it not being perfect, you want to prevent anything bad from happening. You might have some runoff or a pin knot which looks suspect. You want to cover it up and reinforce that portion of the bow, or you're going to prevent something from happening. This bow in particular is quite fast. It's a bit faster than this U-bow. Obviously, there's a little bit more mass in a U-bow, in these U-bows anyway, than a bow such as this, which is nice and short and very, very lively. I'm shooting a Tonkin bamboo shaft, self-fletched. You can see it has quite a bit of speed. I don't know if the cameraman is catching the flight of the arrow or not. Be a little hard. Beautiful bows, beautiful bows. And as you can see, they shoot a really nice arrow. We don't have the opportunity because we're not professionals here, but if you could see the cast and flight of an arrow coming out of this bow, you'd be very impressed. Give your U-bow a shot. I always say a joke, I say, this is not a U-bow, this is my bow.
Aim for the lower dot so we're not breaking arrows there,
Okay,
George.
we're going to aim for the lower dot. don't know what else to say other than these are wonderful bows. It would give anybody pleasure shooting one, and even more pleasure trying to make one.
Stim,
And
take a close up with the camera if
Yeah.
you can, so people can see the beauty of the hue here, the two tones of it. You can't get through a course without people stopping you and asking you what you're shooting and marveling at the craftsmanship and the beauty and the speed and the performance of these bows.
by the way, in Stim's book, as I said before, he has his formula of how to make a bow. And one of the common things that most people say when they're talking about a self bow who may not have experience with one, and say, well, geez, don't they have a lot of hand shock? And of course, some do. It depends on how they're made. If they're made with a good design and a formula such as Stim has, he has had the ability to reduce it to practically nothing. And anybody that would pick one up and shoot it would notice that right away. So there's no jarring shock that it turns a lot of people off from self bows. I just wanted to point that out. So it's one of the important things to stress, to try to get people interested in self bows and self bow shooting.